welcome once again to EWTN's Bookmark. I'm Doug Keck, your host. Our guest author is Justin Fatica, author of Win It All, The Way to Heaven for Catholic Teens, published by Ave Maria Press. Welcome, Justin, EWTN's Bookmark.
Hey,
good to have you here.
Doug, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. There's a lot of energy on this set. You know, usually we got kind of like a little bit of a sleepy author, you know, kind of pipe in hand approach to this program, and I think you're going to bring some energy to this program.
Well, I got to have your permission to bring the energy.
Oh, you can bring the energy.
All right, let's do it then.
Because I want to find out how you go winning it all. And how is this something that's important for Catholic teens to know today?
Yeah, I mean, young people need to know that we're willing to sacrifice anything, even our own pride, everything, like to sacrifice our whole entire life like Jesus did. Jesus Christ, St. Paul, St. Peter, St. Francis, Catherine of Siena, St. Maria Goretti. Look at what they've done. They've given everything. We didn't have those saints for nothing. They're a gift. They're a gift to let us know we need to die, to give all we have for this. And that's what winning it all is. Matthew 22:37-39 says this: "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength. This is the first and the greatest commandment. The second is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself." And you know what that love means? Love means what Jesus taught us. And in that book, Win It All, The Way to Heaven. What is the way to heaven? To sacrifice and commit our whole being like Christ did in the Eucharist. Giving that Eucharist, his whole being to us. And us doing that, going out in return and giving it all. And that's what young people need to see.
I can see that you do a lot of quote-unquote preaching.
A little bit. I don't know.
Okay.
Once in a while.
How do you find the time to settle down to write a book?
Yeah, because I go to the monastery, the Abbey of Geneseo. If anybody go out there, Father Jerome, he's great spiritual.
Is that upstate New York?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And I go there. I also meet a lot of people. Like this morning, I'm in the hotel. You know, I'm going down there to, get focused, pray, get myself in order, get ready. And guess what? God shakes me up every time because there's this young lady. "Hey, how you doing? I like your hair." I go, "Oh, well, thanks a lot. I don't know if it's any good, but hopefully you like my hair. Who knows?" But and I go, "Well, I just want you to know you're amazing." And that's what the first chapter in When It All is about. Our baptismal call tells us we're amazing. We were baptized priest, prophet, and king, that we are amazing, a gift. And so I meet this lady, and the way I write is I meet this lady, and I'm like, "So what are you going through?" Right away. "You're amazing. What are you going through?" She goes, "It's interesting you ask that because I'm here with my daughter, works at the hotel, and my husband died, a couple years ago. And you know what? It's been really hard." Wow. And she goes, "You give me confirmation that, I'm amazing." How couldn't I write about it?
Right.
How couldn't I go back? So it's the people that God has me meet.
And that's what you write about in the book. You've got the Waiter story is
one
of the ones
the Waffle House. You always meet somebody interesting in a Waffle House, Doug.
Okay. Especially down here. Yeah. A lot of Waffle Houses in Birmingham.
Nothing wrong with those Waffle Houses.
No,
keep up the good work.
No, it's certainly a nice place to visit and a cheap breakfast, so to speak. Let me ask you one of the things before we go back. You say in Chapter 1 you were amazing on to recognize your importance. One of the things that strikes me is the fact that, sometimes in our society and even in our culture and in the church, people are concerned that for many years coming out of the 60s, it was all about making people feel good about themselves. And some studies have shown that the people with the highest self-esteem are in prison. And so some people have concern that when we try to tell everybody how wonderful they are, that's not necessarily a good thing. So how does that work for you?
That works for me. Is that you're not amazing because of what you do. You're amazing because of what you've been through. The third chapter, if you keep reading, is make your mess into a message.
Yeah, I remember.
And that's about taking your sin, confessing it, the struggles, and using that to help you. Taking the pain, death, struggles, being, God forbid, in the book there's a suicide story in there, in the 8th chapter. God forbid any of this stuff happens to us, but let's be real, Doug. This is what's going on. What are we running from? Why are we running from? They're going through the struggle We need to give them hope. Christ says in his word, for I'm crucified with Christ, and yet I live. Not I, but Christ that lives within us. What we need to do is get excited about what we've been through. See, what people do is they think they're amazing, okay, just because of whatever. No. You're amazing because of your story. Everybody's got a different story.
And because you're a child of God.
Amen.
That's what makes you
Baptism.
amazing, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. Now, are you, maybe I can testify to it now, but you say I'm seriously ADHD, attention deficit.
Of course. Why not?
Hyperactive
Can you
disorder.
tell? You know,
yes. Is that official diagnosis, or is that just your perspective on how you see your life?
It's something that you have to deal with the energy that you have. You know, my wife's always like, hey, we got to get this focused. You got to work out. You've got to make sure. Yeah.
Did you always have that as a young person as well? High energy?
When I was in 8th grade, I had to go into a psychologist's office, and they were like, hey, look, this guy's a little, you know, this is his situation, you know what I mean? And my parents always, you know, were kind of like, you know, yeah, he's got that struggle and we want to deal with it, and they have dealt with it, and they faced it. But it wasn't a struggle that I dealt with until I met Christ and realized, yeah, I do have ADHD. Call it a diagnosis, call it whatever it is. But actually, you know what I call it? I call it a gift.
Because you channel it.
It's a gift. Let me tell you something. I wouldn't have had an HBO movie, been on Good Morning America. I wouldn't have been able to write these books. I wouldn't be able to go and, in the book, talk about having a knife to my throat and telling the guy I love him, you know, no matter what. I wouldn't be able to go up to a waitress or bring her over to my table or talk to somebody without ADHD. When did we make diagnosis wrong? It's a struggle that the world said I had, but I'm amazing, a child of God. And once I found that out, and you said I channeled it, let me tell you what, go look at any of the great leaders and ask what they were. You know. And
do you think many times with our young teens today, the problem is they're not channeling their gifts in the right direction?
They're not channeling them, and they're not getting the grace they need. They need grace. They need grace, a free gift. You're going to tell me, if I'm going to give you an iPod right now, you're going to tell me you're not going to take it if I say free? I'm telling even you, Doug. You might be able to buy one, but you're going to say, oh, thanks a lot, man, I'll take it.
Sure, why not?
Now, what about the grace to say, I can give you something that can help you through ADHD, confession, Eucharist, daily Mass. I started going to daily Mass at 17 years old. Every morning, I drag all these guys. Ask Father Larry. We'd some days pack that chapel where we only used to have 2-3 kids come. We'd pack it. But I used my gift of age, and I focused on what? Something that's exciting, a free gift. I don't have to pay for the Eucharist. It's been paid for by Jesus Christ's death. I didn't have to pay for confession. It's been paid for through the sacrifice of the holy priesthood for centuries. That's a gift.
How long did it take you, or did you always have this understanding of this gift and how it relates to your Catholic faith? And let's say the gift of the priesthood. Is this something you've come to understand?
Yeah, I mean, I could let you see in the back of my book, I could list you, 50 priests that have spent hours with me, consoling me, hugging me, encouraging me, blessing me, praying with me. But it didn't. I wasn't always like that, because Father Larry Richards was my junior religion teacher, who was also, a national, evangelist, what have you.
Sometimes on radio.
Yeah, and he was my teacher. Just picture having him for a teacher every day. I struggled with him. We went back and forth. And I was a jerk to even a priest at that time. And people, oh, you're a jerk to a priest. You probably go to hell for something like that. And I didn't care, because I didn't have anybody who did what Jesus did, was the face of Christ for me. And he and many other people challenged me. Didn't say it was okay to be a jerk, that it was okay to be hurtful, that it was okay to go out and, use people. And when he challenged me, I saw he cared. A lot of people, when people get challenged, they get annoyed. And I got annoyed. I'd yell back. I'd get thrown out of his classroom. But when I went through a challenge in my life, I found out that, you know what? He cared. Right. And not only him, but many other people. The diocesan youth director at the time, even the bishop. The Diocese of Erie. One day I told the Bishop, I want to write a book, you know, being a native son of Erie, Pennsylvania, on what I could name 30, 40 priests have done for me, and what a diocese can do for a young man who's dealing with challenges like ADHD, dealing with challenges like trying to figure out what's his mission when he has a dad who, you know, my dad took a company public. My dad's a successful guy, and the challenge was like, what are you going to do? And I come home and tell him, I'm going to go around and tell people about Jesus Christ. And he's like, all right, well, tell me when the phase is over.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let me know.
Yeah, let me know when it's over, because I'll have you come take your energy and work with me.
Is that something you also find, too, with people that in a world where we're so success-oriented, because you point out that with gaining a victory in a game or accumulation of more money, possessions, and fame than the next person, this is not what I mean by winning at all, that with many young people having highly successful parents, that puts a lot of pressure on them?
Yeah, of course. But let me tell you what. We don't have a kids problem in this country, just to be honest. Okay. You can't blame a 13-year-old for the problems in this country. You can't blame, you know, it's not like some 13-year-olds up in MTV like doing this. You know what the problem is? We have an adult problem. And we have a father problem.
Believe me, I met many of them.
They
might as well be 13-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly,
but,
right?
They are adults.
So
right?
what we need to realize is our young people are our future, and they are, as Pope John Paul II said, they are the church. And the reason he was so emphatic about, I believe, and it was a grace-filled time in his life where he's so emphatic, they are the church. It's because he's saying, look, we need to go after them because they have a pure heart. They care. And you know what? Like, our adults, all the adults out there realize the prayers, the letters, the hugs, the encouragement, the daily mass commitment, the challenge your sisters, brothers to confession. Keep being rejected. Keep being told, no, that's annoying. Why do you keep telling me? No, they know you love them because the media doesn't stop. The media doesn't go, oh, you haven't bought Victoria's Secret. Oh, we're going to stop. No, they're like, let's keep going. Do they stop? So why do we stop? Why? And that's what winning it all is. Giving your very best. That's what God asks. Are you going to fail? Heck yeah. Are you going to succeed? We hope. But it's not about that. Christ had 3 people, maybe other biblical scholars would say more, at his funeral, right? But he gave his very best. Right. And that's what it's about, Doug.
And he also fell 3 times on the way to and got up again. You say this book shares a roadmap for living out these steps. You have like 8 steps. Yeah. And we'll talk about it in the book, take place in the Catholic Church. I thought it was interesting, and you mentioned it already, especially through participation in the sacraments, because many times in the kinds of, let's say, sometimes youth ministries that have happened over the last 20 years, you know, some people would say, well, we have pizza, and we don't want to make the kids feel too bad or put too much of a load on them, and, you know, the sacrament stuff is maybe a little heady for them. So, but you go right for the sacraments. Why are they so important to you, and why is it important that what young people focus on?
You know, they can get pizza anywhere. There's a pizza shop every corner. Let's be honest there. You know, they can get basketball anywhere. You know, I'm an athlete. You know, I work out, the whole deal. Like they can get all those things at school, but we've got to charge with something that's different. Like if you're always getting something and then you get something new, they're going to be shocked and go, oh, this is interesting. So I believe in youth ministry, you need confession, mass, adoration. If everyone had confession, mass, adoration, confession, mass, adoration, confession, mass, adoration, youth ministry would change. Now, the only way to be able to do it, though, is to be able to be the face of Christ to them and them to see that you're willing to sacrifice anything, even your life, for them personally, and to care for them, to be a physical witness, because then confession, mass, adoration would be more in vain.
Because people are looking for authenticity.
Yeah, Yeah, they want real. They don't want some guy, oh, you're going to talk about Jesus sacrificed his life and you're hanging out 5 hours every day doing nothing? You're not out on the streets. You're not out coming to see my football game. Maybe you're not coming out. You know, I had a great youth minister who was a great friend of mine. When I did campus ministry, I did youth ministry for 10 years. And he told me, he goes, it's great. It's great that you think Mass is important. It's great you think confession is important. And it's great you think adoration is important. It's great you think all these kind of things. But these kids, this is what they're saying. What have you ever done for me? What have you ever done for me? So you know what? That's where you need to start writing letters to young people. When's the last time somebody, like people are like, oh, what can I do for young people? I got a question. When's the last time you heard somebody say, I wrote a letter to a kid. I see him at Mass every Sunday, or 50% of the time with his family. And you know, when's the last time our adults were writing letters saying, thank you. You are a gift. I see you here most of the time. Keep coming to Mass. Let me tell you what, I don't care how old I am. 15, 18, even if I was 50. If I got a letter, somebody saying, thanks for the sacrifice I make at Mass, that's a living witness where they're going to want Mass more. So I challenge everybody who's listening right now to get your pens out and write a letter right now to a young person. You might not even know their name. To a young person you see every Sunday and say, thank you for the sacrifice you make. Because you know what? What I say to Jesus Christ when I look at the cross is, thank you for the sacrifice you make.
Right. Well, in chapter 2, you have discover your mission in life, and you talk about the whole idea right up front about don't miss this invitation to explore vocations. And you talk about especially the idea of the priesthood, religious life, marriage, and committed single life are the ways Catholics live out their lives. Let's just talk about, you've got these 8 steps. You also have it, the way you're formatted, it broke it up in those chapters. But at the end, you also have questions to help you win it all and steps to recognize your importance. Why did you decide to set it up that way?
Well, because I wanted to be active, especially for like the talks that I give around the country. When you're speaking to hundreds of thousands of people in a year, you know, you're going around giving these talks. You want to give them concrete tools. Like a lot of times, because I have a lot of energy, because of like, I forget about, you know, structuring it at the end. And they're like, oh man, we're out of time. But this helps me as the author when I give talks to be able to structure that. And also, I can't go everywhere. You know, I'm one guy. Who am I? I'm just a little guy running around, you know. You know, my wife told me one time, I go, hey, what am I from 1 to 10? She says, you're a 9. I said, I'm a 9. What's this all about? She says, yeah, you're short. But, you know, like the whole deal. But for me, like, I wanted to make sure that I gave a structure, even if I can come in town or not, for youth ministers, for youth leaders.
So they can use this book in a
youth group. Yes, they can use it. And it'll eventually have a DVD series and the whole deal that Ave Maria is working on, so that they can, you know, get the DVD series and use that. Maybe you want to give the talks about the chapters, you know, the 8 chapters, the youth leader. Or maybe, you know, you want me to give the talks and then you just go over the questions afterward, depending how you feel as the youth leader or catechetical leader, etc.
Right. Why Charles de Foucauld? He's someone who people watch EWTN closely would know. I think he was actually known as the White Marabut. Why was he important to you?
Well, because he came from a wealthy family. You know what I mean? Like, and knowing that not just St. Francis, that there's other examples out there that came from that. And that, you know what, they made the sacrifice to look at their family and go, hey, you've loved me. My family is a very loving family, very encouraging family. Like, my mother was the person that was there when I failed, you know, in school. My mother was there who hugged me, embraced me. She was the one who challenged me to go to church on Sundays. My dad, you know, be honest, he went to St. Mattress. You know what I mean? He went to the bed every Sunday. Okay. And he used to say, hey, I go to St. Mattress. But
Mom was going to Mass for the family kind
of thing. Yeah,
thing.
Basically. But, you know, if we didn't push, she wouldn't make us go. Sure. It wasn't like, this is the most important thing for us to get the Eucharist. You know what I mean? It was more like a community thing, and she has faith and loves her Catholic faith and wants to say, hey, this is important to me, come. But it wasn't like something like, this is my life. So for me, going back and looking my family going, hey, look, I want to bring Jesus to the world. I want to not only bring Jesus to the world, I want to bring this Catholic faith that people think is sleepy, I want to shake it out. I want to let people know this Catholic faith changed my life. And you know what? Not only did it change my life, but it is my life and it's important. And I'm not a Protestant guy. Everybody asks, oh, so you're a Protestant? No, I'm Catholic. What are you? Well, because I'm pumped up for Christ. All of a sudden, I'm not Catholic? What's that say? So I do that, and I got inspired by Charles saying, look, holy cow, if he can do it, I can do it. And that's what saints do. That's what leaders of faith do. They challenge us. And that's like the Father Peter Cameron, who is a shepherd for me, a spiritual leader. Father Larry Richards, Bishop Kevin Rhodes. All these people who have challenged me to say, yeah, keep it up, son. Don't give up. And you know what? That's what all the leaders, all the saints I talked about, that's what they do. People are like, oh, the Catholics worship saints. There's a Michael Jordan statue in Chicago. Are they worshiping him? Calm down. We're saying that people who love Christ are important. If you got a problem with that, Catholic or not Catholic, I got a problem with you.
In chapter 2, Discover Your Mission in Life, and this is several times because you have a lot of personal discussions of, your conversation with the waitress, Mr. Lynch.
Yeah, he's great, Mr. Lynch.
But you also talk about your friend Jeff. You said, my good friend Jeff asked me before he got married for some words of advice. I told him, please remember what you sacrificed. What did you mean by that?
Well, this guy's an athlete. He went to the Division I AA national championship game. A guy who grew up like Charles, like myself, in a wealthy family. And when he was about 15, 16 years old, he made a commitment to save sex till marriage. And he lived it. And that's why he'll be a great husband and a great father. Because, this, EWTN means so much because Mother Angelica sacrificed so much. And marriage will mean so much that before we get married, the more we sacrifice, the more it means. And that's what I meant. And he's one of my best friends to this day. It was actually I was a campus minister at Paramus Catholic High School in Paramus, New Jersey. And he was one of the really one of the big conversions there. And the other thing is, just so you know, that young man there, he's not Catholic, but he's my brother. And, I love him with all my heart. And it's just awesome to see the commitment he made to his wife before he even knew her. And that's what it's about, man. Giving it your all, winning it all. That's winning it all. Sacrificing everything for Christ.
But you're dealing with young people, and in the age we live in today, first of all, sacrifice is certainly not on the top of most people's lists of things to do. In fact, psychologists over the last 30 years would tell you, why should you be sacrificing? You're having a negative view of life or something. And you also, obviously, it touched you because of what he was willing to give up for ultimately being a good husband and a good father, both of which are things that are not really, in our society, highly prized, and certainly not by the media, and then thus probably not by a lot of young people.
Well, I'll tell you what, Doug. There's business leaders out there sacrificing everything for money. So it's not the thing that people don't want to sacrifice, because they are. And people are sacrificing everything. Look at LeBron James. For fame, for a title. When people start seeing us Catholics sacrificing everything for Christ, look at me, man. I promise you, Doug, they'll respond. I know it. And not just kids. I know out there they're thinking, my son's not coming around. Sacrifice. Give it your all. You fail. And young people don't want to sacrifice. I'm sorry to say. You want me to tell you why? Because Dad wasn't ready to sacrifice. Their dad hurt them. Or maybe Mom. Or maybe an uncle. When they see examples not ready, forget this. Dad didn't sacrifice. I'm not going to sacrifice. We will be who we receive in our life. That's why we need to receive Christ in the Eucharist, because we will be that. That's why when a kid has a dad or a mom or a brother or a sister, that they receive that message from them to not sacrifice, to do whatever, to be selfish, they will be selfish and they will be hurtful. But it has not to do with our young people. Let me tell you what a great leader, a good friend, mentor of mine, Ken Blanchard, told me this. He said, look at the generation behind you. Do you like it? Some of you say no. It's not their fault. That's your fault. We need to give more. And some of you are like, oh, I'm doing enough. Let me tell you what. Have you died yet for it all? Have you given it all? And I say that loosely. You're like, well, you know what? I've been rejected. You know, I've been rejected by the best of them. And I'm not going to say, that's what I mean by win it all. Win it all means I'll be rejected for Christ. It doesn't say blessed or praised because they're hanging out with Doug, you know, Keck from EWTN. So what? Blessed are those that are rejected for the sake of the gospel. Blessed are those that are rejected. And I'm sure you doing this work, praise God for you. Because you know what? You get rejected all the time. And that's what it's about.
Well, hopefully no publishers will reject any of your future books.
Hey, I hope not. I hope
Justin.
not.
Hey, Justin.
You're amazing.
Yeah, great to have you here, Justin.
You're amazing.
Justin Fatica, author of Win It All, The Way to Heaven for Catholic Teens, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog. High energy. Check it out. Check us out next time right here on EWTN's Bookmark.